Hello and welcome to this episode of The Rest is Entertainment Questions and Answers edition. I'm Marina Hyde.
And I'm Richard Osman. Hello, Marina.
Hello, Richard. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you, listeners and viewers, as always, for your wonderful questions.
Yes, I feel almost viewers in preponderance should be coming first now. But anyhow, we will begin immediately for you with a question about Graham Norton's show. So many people have asked this.
I know, it's funny, isn't it? There's certain questions crop up again and again, and this one seems to be a particular obsession of people.
Yeah, it is. D. Neville in this instance says, how is the guest order decided on the Graham Norton show? Is there a hierarchy from left to right? Is it at all to do with money, or is it designed for the best possible level of interaction?
Wow, a little bit of everything is the truth. It's been asked so many times, and I was sometimes with producers of shows, I'm like, there are secrets that you don't really want to give away. One of those might be who you put in what positions, because there are reasons. But I thought I would ask Graham Stewart, who is Graham's long-term producer, and also, by the way, doing Claudia's new chat show, which I'm sure we'll talk about at some point.
Oh my gosh, we certainly will.
But Graham gave me the exact answer.
Oh, great.
So this is absolutely from the person who knows. Graham says, first he says, interesting question from one of your media-savvy listeners. That's good. See, that's how you do a chat show. You know, you make sure people feel good about themselves. My answer can be summed up thus. Welcome to show business, where all stars are equal, but some are more equal than others. Media hierarchy is primarily driven by publicists.
Oh.
And we've talked about that many times.
Yeah.
And seat one, which is the seat next to Graham, is the primary aim of all of them for their clients.
Yeah.
I've been on that show a number of times. I do not have a publicist. No one ever talked to me about seat one, Graham. But seat one is the one. He says, and he's absolutely right, our sofa is so star-packed that those publicists have to work very hard to get what they want. And you're right, there are certain shows where, I mean, literally...
Is it a trial by combat? They must fight each other, the publicists?
Huge amounts of people, huge amounts of big stars. Yeah, these publicists have to work very hard to get what they want. Here's where we draw the curtain a bit. I leave it to you to imagine how long that process can take.
Wow.
So, different publicists saying, we must be seat one, we must be seat one. After that, we aim to arrange the order to maximize chemistry. So you've got seat one, which would be the one next to Graham. So that is the prime real estate, seats 2, 3, and 4. And that is chemistry based.
And not hierarchical. That's
not hierarchical. Okay. It's absolutely just what works best.
Yeah.
He says seat 4 is interesting. So seat 4 is the seat furthest from Graham. Same on House of Games. So on seat 4, actually, you feel like you're slightly further away from somebody. And it's the same on the Graham show. Seat 4 is interesting. Traditionally, the berth is for a funny person, but it can also accommodate an artist we know will play the talk show game correctly and help create the right kind of conversational flow. Now, by saying someone who knows how to play the game, it's literally someone who is fun in conversation and who wants to hear from other people, and you can throw in their own things which are funny and fun, but also can be sat a fair amount of distance from Graham.
And also not to be an ego issue. Within the spirit of the show on proceedings and deliver sort of acid asides or whatever. I think that it works. That works as well for that person.
Well, there's an interesting thing if you're sat in that seat is that the camera angle on you can look off.
Yeah.
And you can look to the audience in a way that you cannot do in seats 2 and 3. So you can absolutely be, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Oh my God, Johnny Depp and Tom Hanks are having an argument. If
you're competent in some way, it's the safest seat because you get to be the most yourself.
It's the most fun seat. You're not having to sort of...
You're no one's slipstream.
You're not having to nod at Arnold Schwarzenegger and then sort of look the other way and nod at Scarlett Johansson. You can
which I hate at dinner parties.
You can look off at the band and say, "Are you hearing this, guys?" So the seat 4, as I say, someone who knows how to play the game. He said, but the key factor in all of this, and this is why Graham is absolutely right about this, Graham Stewart. So the key factor in all of this is the extraordinary ability of Graham Norton to ringmaster a soft furnishing-based line of giant egos. Nobody does it better.
He is brilliant. I couldn't agree more.
And by the way, I think when Graham says giant egos there, he's not saying anyone's a diva. He's just saying that, people are there to do their own
work in show business.
thing. They work in show business. And whenever I go on other TV shows, I'm playing a different game to other people, I think, a little bit. You have to go on and you have to promote things. But I'm always watching how it is presented and produced. And sometimes you go on shows and you're like, okay, well, I guess they'll fix this in the edit. But on that show, I'm watching the brilliant art of Graham Stewart and Jo Magnuson, who produce it, and also how brilliant Graham Norton is because I can see the production that's gone on. I can see the stuff that's prepped. I can see I can see the rhythm that they want. I can see, the kind of structure that they put together. But then I can see how, when you get a host like Graham Norton, how they can riff off the back of that and how they can turn it into something different. But the Seat 1 stuff is fun, isn't it?
It's really fun. I just really want to imagine all the publicists having to do incredibly vicious tasks versus each other.
But also now you have to look back over every episode of Graham Norton and see, like, when two people have a similar level of fame, and you just go, and then you just have to imagine the conversations.
Well, it's like we talked about it once before, the old Concorde seating arrangement. It's very, very difficult. Who goes in 1A? If you've got, like Jagger and Rupert Murdoch, what do you do? I mean, I know what I'd do, but I don't run the world.
I would head back to the Ryanair queue immediately. A question for you, Marina, from Danny Miller. The Marty Supreme marketing campaign has surely succeeded in terms of getting an indie flick about a table tennis player from the 1950s into the cultural zeitgeist. What are the greatest movie marketing campaigns of all time?
Yes, Marty Supreme it's become A24's most successful movie via the North American box office, which is what they really count and care about. It's been helped by a very, very willing star who's willing to do unusual things, Timothée Chalamet, and he's obviously some funny behind-the-scenes campaign videos, which they put on, like the whole thing, the orange clothes, the Kylie of it all, the Kylie Jenner of it all.
He's a Graham Norton Seat 1.
Yeah, he's absolutely Seat 1. The last one we really saw like that was Barbie with Margot Robbie, who absolutely hauled that film around the world. They had premieres every. She turned up to every premiere in a different and amazing kind of pink outfit. Again, it's sort of costuming, but it's fun and it's knowing. Yeah. But there were many other things with that. They spent, I think it cost 145 and they spent 150 on marketing, so more money.
Million.
Yeah. And that colour, remember, they ran out of that specific pink for set painting in the UK, that specific shade of Barbie pink. But they had saturation marketing for that, like everything from Google changing its name on all of those things. But the thing that you couldn't really predict was the Barbenheimer phenomenon. And that came up organically. And that was great for both that and Oppenheimer.
Do you think that's better for I know that Nolan is a huge filmmaker and has made a lot of money in his time. But do you think it boosted Oppenheimer more than it boosted Barbie?
Yes, I do. Yeah. I really do. And I think that you didn't see Cillian Murphy or Nolan trogging around the world. I mean, she was everywhere, Margaret. She absolutely dragged that movie around the world, and I think she did brilliantly. And she was really out there. I've got a huge amount of time for her. I think she's fantastic.
Yes, agreed.
Okay, we talked about. I will just do this one quickly. Jaws was amazing because it opened coast to coast, and it had a lot of TV ads, which was crucial. And that poster is iconic. So Jaws was one of those. Going to further sort of Steven Spielberg monster films, Jurassic Park was incredible because that campaign was all about something. I mean, he obviously learned from Jaws that, maybe the anticipation and not seeing the monster, the shark in that case, or the dinosaurs, it kind of gets more it serves up more suspense and it serves up more drama. You never saw the dinosaurs. You could hear them. You might hear the footprints, but you never saw them. And there was such an expectation for what do these things look like, because it was obviously going to be the CGI triumph. So that brings me to my next one. No one knew. Avatar, as always, when someone takes a big swing, there's always these people out there saying this is going to be a complete disaster. It's going to flop. It's going to tank so badly. What's James Cameron thinking of? And that was definitely the narrative about Avatar, it was all going to be a big disaster. And so I remember what they did was that they got lots of journalists and whatever, and they gave them a 15-minute screening and they gave them a look at the world, and it completely destroyed the disaster narrative overnight, because those people, we would not have even known what the word influencer meant at that time, but they effectively were cultural influencers, and that turned everything around overnight. Again, Star Wars, everyone thought that would bomb. There was nothing in popular culture that said, there's a Star Wars-shaped gap missing in this particular thing. So it was a really big swing. I think, in a way, the marketing for that was brilliant. The campaign for that was fantastic, but also what George Lucas did was that he got all those toys ready. He believed in it so much. He got all the toys ready in advance. He understood that merchandising was part of the law, was part of the way in which young people were going to understand the world, and not as a sort of afterthought, but part of actually the world, the universe building.
Well, I was 6 years old when Star Wars came out, and we went to see it. We were not a family who ever went to the cinema. We were not a culturally rich family, but I just remember just the assumption of course you would go and see Star Wars. It's like jury service. It is now my weekend to go and see Star Wars, and the excitement of the thing, and absolutely no idea where that came from, because they weren't influencing me particularly, and my mum is almost uninfluenceable. So,
but there you go.
Something worked, yeah.
Well, okay.
God, I loved that film when I went to see it.
So amazing.
I mean, what a lovely film to have as your first, like a film that's so brilliantly made and has endured. Listen, I can, buy or leave the rest of the Star Wars universe, but that as
the toys then serving as a sort of, because the toys were so big, serving as a sort of iterated campaign. By the time you played with them and you're in the world,
I can live without the toys.
You could.
But
they were a huge thing,
sure.
and they were a way that by the time The Empire Strikes Back comes in, you've been playing with these things for 3 years or whatever it was.
I think I was still on Action Man at that point.
Okay, Deadpool was great. That was a brilliant sort of Marvel campaign in a kind of peak to try and do something different within that universe. For me, I love things like this. So the Blair Witch Project was unbelievable. That movie cost $60,000. It created the idea of found footage as we know it, which now is so hackneyed as you can't even do it anymore. But it became a cultural immersion. People were completely obsessed with it. They created fake missing persons posters. It had a website. Wow. Yeah. This is 99. It had a website. It had fake newsreels. It had police reports on the website. It was something completely different and ultra avant-garde and modern in terms of anything. And people were obsessed with it. As I say, the movie cost $60,000. And so there are lots of great horror ones, actually.
That's one where you can't say that movie cost 60 and they spent 70 on marketing.
Yeah, you're quite right. Quite right. But there are lots of horror ones that are good. Hitchcock did it by accident with Psycho because he really didn't want to give away any forms of twists that may or may not be in the movie. He didn't want to give anything away. So he said to the theatre owners, no one can be admitted late to this film. And they let it be known that he'd said this. And so it created this whole kind of idea of, but why? Yeah. And so they had all these, there were long queues, and people could see in real life there were long queues around the cinema. So that was a big one.
Blockbusters.
Yeah. Cloverfield, which is a kind of horror sci-fi. Yeah. I think this one was an amazing one. It was a viral ARG game, alternate reality game. And it was so clever. That was J.J. Abrams movie. The Dark Knight did this too. And they involved sort of MySpace pages for the characters. There were fake websites. There were all these kind of Lovecraftian elements. And it was sort of possible to piece together the idea of what the monster might be from what there was out there. And again, The Dark Knight did this, to make the fans players before they have ever got to see it is incredible.
Which now we take as an absolute given.
We do. I credit all of those with having had amazing campaigns. Sometimes it's just a slogan, and I've talked before, so I won't bang on about it, but like, in space, no one can hear you scream. All of the sort of alien thing, alien thing, which was just an egg on the poster. Again, what's in the egg? That sort of anticipation. But I would say in terms of actual really quite concerted and clever campaigns, or in Hitchcock's case, almost accidental, although he's so calculating that it's hard to. But Marty Supreme has certainly, in a time when we've, press campaigns getting quite tired and they're not doing, that has broken out of the strictures, which means that essentially you can spend all this money and it not really, and things not even really get noticed. That has broken out of that. And a huge amount of it is credit to Timothée Chalamet and the way he did it and the way he leans into those things, because most stars don't want to promote their movies. It's
fascinating as well, that thing of when something enters popular culture and you haven't worked out how it is to be able to sort of cross that Rubicon into mainstream popular culture, which is very, very, very hard to do. I remember, I must have been 21, 22 or something, and I remember Reservoir Dogs.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And I don't know anything about the story behind that marketing campaign. I remember seeing that poster, and I remember everyone going, oh, I'm so excited for that film coming out. I cannot wait for that film coming out. And this is a movie by someone we'd never heard of before. No. It had people you knew in it, but, so
most people didn't know those people.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't kind of, it wasn't a new
no stars.
Tom Hanks movie. It just had that black and red and white poster with sort of people wearing sunglasses, kind of walking towards you. And everybody wanted to see that movie.
And the music, the soundtrack took on a complete cultural life of its own, and that's always very helpful.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? And it's got how that's that alchemy is quite something. Yeah, so Star Wars and Reservoir Dogs both had that effect on me. And I think this Christmas so did Marty Supreme. You're just like, oh, of course I'm going to go and see that. I don't really have an option not to.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the next thing that I'm going to go and do. It's an amazing skill, and it helps when the movies are great.
Well, here's a question after my own heart from Nick, Richard, about the Salt Path. Have sales of the Salt Path been affected in the aftermath of the Observer's investigation? This was the one that cast doubt on the stories behind this unbelievable best-selling book. Is there any sense it's caused lasting damage in the publishing industry?
It's a story that really caught light. Isn't it interesting? Yeah. And stories don't often catch light in the publishing industry. Is the truth. It's quite hard for publishing to get on the front page. And this was a story about a book that in publishing was big, but in the wider world, was still relatively small. So a phenomenon within the world of publishing, but outside the world of publishing didn't have the name recognition, which it now definitively does. Something about this story that really caught people's attention, something about the lie of the thing, something about...
It's by Raina Wynn, and it's about going off on a walk when they're sort of made homeless, apparently through no fault of their own in the telling of the book. And her husband, who has a seemingly terminal illness, go on this walk around the Salt Path in Cornwall, and he is semi-cured via this journey against the elements.
And all sorts of inconsistencies were shown up, and so it became a big story. By the way, I met someone who knew the Raina Wynn's husband, said he's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. But, doesn't help with our narrative here. It was a big story. So what effect does it have? And again, we have to talk about the thing that the publishing industry is an ecosystem all of its own. It doesn't work in the same way as talking about marketing campaigns for films and stuff like that, where there is a place for them to be as central in our culture. It's not the case with books. And if you look at something like The Rise of Freida McFadden, that has not come through traditional means. So she's the absolute biggest name in publishing, self-published, but it comes more via Facebook and by word of mouth and things like that, which happen with books. The other side of that is you can have a huge scandal like this, like the Salt Path thing, and it was a big story. If this had been TV story, if it had been the BBC, we'd never heard the end of it. The people who would have resigned would have been absolutely crazy. But the net impact of it, I would say, across sales, across the culture of the publishing industry, is literally zero. It is nothing. Sales figures didn't really get a bump, particularly when it came out. I guess the amount of people who suddenly thought I'd like to read that was offset by the amount of people who were suddenly going, ooh, I don't know if I should read that. So sales had sort of no impact whatsoever. The sales chart is exactly where it was before. It's had an impact on Raina Wynn's next book, which hasn't come out, and I don't imagine will come out anytime soon. But her next book, which I imagine will be about this, I suspect will do rather well. But it's had no impact there. And I've talked to various agents and editors about stuff that goes in on submission now and what publishers are looking for and what commissioning editors are looking for. They say it never comes up.
What, fact-checking?
Not even fact-checking, just the idea that this might have had an impact on an industry whatsoever. There are a couple more legal queries than usual on some submissions. Major, but certainly no commissioner is going, oh, I don't know about doing real life stories because it's a lot of hassle, and people now sort of doubting everything they read. No one is doubting what they read more. No one is saying, oh, we can't do a thing about walking along a path. A couple more queries from the legal people. No one has resigned. No one's lost their job. No one's really all that fussed about it. And it has had no impact whatsoever on sales. It's had, it's had an immediate impact on Raina's career because the next book is not going to come out, but that will be substituted by the fact that the book she does next, of course, will be about what happens when you become the centre of a media storm, what happens to your family, what is your truth.
A metaphorical storm this time as opposed to the other types of the elements.
Exactly, where you were sitting in your farmhouse in France rather than walking down a coastal path like you said you were going to. So yeah, it's had no impact at all really. The Salt Path movie, Gillian Anderson and Jason Isaacs did neither well or badly. But yeah, when all this story came out, there were people saying, actually, this is going to send people into the bookshops to buy this book. It's going to go crazy. It did not go crazy. Other people saying, well, that's it. She'll never sell another book in her life. She is still selling books. So it has had absolutely zero effect whatsoever. I find publishing a fascinating sort of bubble in the middle of things where different rules apply. You cannot apply the rules of other bits of culture, television, film, music even, to the world of publishing. It exists in an entirely different sphere. To answer your question in a way, it has had no impact whatsoever. Tells its own story.
Answer.
Yeah, tells its own story, and that story happens to be true, which is rare these days. Marina, a question from Isla Carrigan. Like Marina, I am obsessed with the idea of the Charlie XCX mockumentary The Moment coming at the end of the month. What are your top 3 mockumentaries?
That's a really good question, and I really like the form. The first time we ever heard that word was in the opening sort of monologue by Rob Reiner. I mean, he created that word for us.
At the beginning of Spinal Tap.
Right at the beginning of Spinal Tap. So, by the way, I've divided these into cinema and TV. I'll do kind of TV first, I think.
What is it about the form? I love it. It's fun to write.
It's really fun. It's a fun sleight of hand, isn't it? I tell you why, in some ways you like it because it's a format and it's always funny to play with a format. So you're saying, here's a set of rules for how we do these things.
And as a writer, yes.
You know, there are moving parts, there are talking heads, there's found footage, there's this, there's all of these things. And then we put it all together. It's a little bit like doing a play within a play or something like that, is that you can play with the form and you can make it.
But writers love it. So there have always been, you know, mockumentaries is an absolute favourite of writers, especially comedy writers.
Yeah, yes, exactly. All of mine are comedies, my TV ones. She's not in there yet, but she probably will be in a series or two. All the cunt ones. She's like just outside the top 3 and 4. Yeah, all of those. Number 3, I'm going to put Summer Heights High, which I think may have aged really complicatedly in some departments, but is genuinely hysterical. That's Chris Lilly,
the Australian.
The Australian guy, yeah. And it's a sort of documentary behind a story of just a high school where a girl from a private school does an exchange with a girl from their school. We never see her. I find it hysterical. Number 2, I'm going to put them at 2 equal because I almost feel they're not really mockumentaries. But
so is this number 1 and number 2?
No, this is number 3 I've just done because I've done it properly.
Well, you haven't if you're doing joint number 2s.
Oh yeah, you're right. I can't.
You can have them, but because if Summer Heights High is number 4,
no.
And these 2 are joint number 2. You can't relegate one to behind Summer Heights High.
It's almost like I should be picking a genre because those ones that came in the wake of mockumentaries, the TV comedies, like Modern Family, like Parks and Recreation, they sort of are because there's a lot of people looking at the camera.
Yeah.
But let's be quite honest, you're not sure where on earth this documentary would be at. I'll say Parks and Recreation because you can conceivably imagine that someone would do a documentary about local government in Indiana.
They very quickly, like The Office, they very, very quickly forget that it's a mockumentary. And also they have to, the ways in which they have to go, we do actually need to see this scene.
Why would we see Chris Pratt and Rashida Jones at home?
Yes, exactly.
Why would we ever see that? So I suppose that genre, which just shows you how beloved and what a brilliant shorthand it was for a certain type of, especially when you're making shows that are essentially in American network television, kind of 22, 24 minutes long. Abbott Elementary does it so brilliantly now, which is it allows you to get lots of information out there quickly. It allows characters to talk to camera and say what they're doing. And it just really allows for a sort of slightly more dense...
That's the thing as a writer that's
that
fun.
Like.
In the same way with Thursday Murder Club, I have someone who writes a diary. It allows you to put information in a way that is fun and entertaining, in a way that feels real. But that as a writer of a long form narrative, you're like, hold on, how do I get this across? And it's somebody, you have to do a lot of exposition in writing. And if you've got a documentary maker saying, what just happened there? Great. Okay, done.
But at number 1, I have to say, because it just completely reinvigorated the form and made it something that all of these things copied, is the UK Office, which, because there were only 2 seasons, it felt like a documentary from the beginning to the end. And obviously the US Office, by the end, it spun off into so many different things. It's moved away from that, but it is totally brilliant, the US Office. But Ricky Gervais and Stephen Merchant, I would say it did completely stick to that idea of docu-soaps, as they were called, which is another, I suppose, with these kind of narrative documentaries about sort of everyday life.
But isn't it fascinating how, The Office comes out of watching things like Driving School or Airport, which were a very, very specific time in British television, that Ricky and Stephen then make that show. And then The Office US, which, as you say, spins into something completely different. I think it's one of the greatest works of art of our century. Yeah.
Okay, cinema. I'm missing things like District 9. I'm missing. I mean, you could just do solely the ones that Christopher Guest and Michael McKean have done. I love all of those, but given that they're going to appear in this elsewhere in this top 3, Number 3 is not a comedy. When I was thinking about this question, I remembered it's really dark, by the way, but it's brilliant. It's called Man Bites Dog. A documentary crew follow around a serial killer and then they become sort of involved in the crime. It's absolutely brilliant. And it shows you that it doesn't always have to be comedy.
That's Belgian, right?
That's Belgian. I just wanted something on the list that wasn't comedy because possibilities of the form are not totally limited to comedy.
This is a sidebar. I was watching an episode of Frasier the other day. I was just thinking, when we did our episode about BTS and how everything now is non-American. There was an episode of Frasier I was watching, and Frasier has the hots for a very, very intelligent woman, as so often, and she invites him to the cinema and she goes, yes, this film I'm watching, I'm afraid it has subtitles. And Frasier goes, I prefer it with subtitles. And literally the laugh it gets that someone could prefer something with subtitles. It was beyond. It was great.
Whereas now the news is being watched with subtitles.
Yeah. Anyway, so I fear less recommending a Belgian film than I might have done 30 years ago.
Oh my God, I mean, just forget about it.
No one cares,
it's brilliant. It's brilliant and really dark. Okay, so it's not for the faint-hearted. Number 2, Zelig, the Woody Allen, because you almost feel, did this person really exist? And at number 1, this is Spinal Tap, because how could it be anything else?
How can it not be?
Anything that Christopher Guest, Michael McKean, any of them are in, and they've done so many brilliant ones, it could have been any of them, but it has to be Spinal Tap. It's where we got the phrase mockumentary.
Yeah.
And it's flawless. It is literally faultless. It is a faultless work. And so that's my top 3s.
And because I know you didn't want to put 2 of those movies in the top 3, which is you're absolutely right in terms of the format. So I will also add how much I love Best in Show.
I was just about to say, I mean, that's the one I had to leave out, obviously. They were going to be Best in Show and Man Bites Dog.
Yeah. Which is
both dog in the dog genre.
But if you've not seen Best in Show, that's a absolute joy.
But the casts in these things are so completely brilliant. And of course, all of these brilliant actors are still with us and have just, Eugene Levy. Oh yeah, I think I might have heard of a little show you did called Schitt's Creek. Parker Posey's become so much bigger. Jennifer Coolidge, Jane Lynch, who then went on to be in Glee. All of those people.
Yeah, it's incredible.
It's completely brilliant. They're all in Best in Show, actually, all of those.
Fred Willard commentating on Best in Show is amazing.
I love him so
What's that
much.
amazing scene where he goes to talk to the guy who is someone who negotiates with people when they're standing on ledges if they're going to jump, and his entire life's career has been, no, I'm the guy, if someone's going to jump, I'm the guy who comes to talk them down. He goes, you want to know a secret? They all jump. Okay.
It's so good. Anyway.
And no Sacha Baron Cohen?
It's interesting. I just feel like I have said before that I really believe those are comic performances that in some cases should have been nominated for an Oscar because it's so hard to do improvisational comedy in a genuinely live and in some cases actually genuinely dangerous situation. So I almost don't feel they're in the mockumentary category.
It feels like, weirdly,
it just feels like a genre
of
one. As I said, I do think that some of those performances are Oscar worthy, but they also, the Academy also don't know what to do with that.
Speaking of Oscar worthy, the Oscar nominations are out later today and tomorrow. Wonderful Chris Lockery and Ollie Richards, who our members will know very well, both the great film experts, will be giving an immediate reaction to those Oscar
They're going to live
noms.
react to the Oscar nominations as they come up. They've seen every single one of these titles already.
They've seen every film that's ever been made anywhere in the whole world, and also they're very, very, very funny as well.
And if you want to sign up for those bonus episodes, it's therestersentertainment.com. You get ad-free listening, you get the bonus episodes, there's a Discord.
Early access to tickets for live shows, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, as always, we remain freely available to all of you next Tuesday.
See you next Tuesday.